I heard a beautiful saying today, Merchav HaNeshama, that when people come together, Merchav is like a space. And that when people come together, there's a way that we create Merchav HaNeshama, like a soul-filled space that allows the Shekhinah to dwell there. So I really want to appreciate kind of the way, and thank you all for joining the way that we're building a big merchav. Every person here, it gets bigger and bigger. And whether you're watching it on the recording or now, I want to welcome your presence. Just a moment. Chana Vered is here to support me, making her co-host. Thank you, Chana Vered. So the title of this class is Rectifying Anger, Creating Healthy Boundaries. And I've been kind of going back and forth how much to put on the boundaries, how much time and space for the boundaries, and how much around the anger. And the place of the boundaries, of having the kli, a container, a vessel for our emotions, that's what I'm calling the very most basic boundary is our skin. It's the container of our body that holds our nefesh, our ruach, our neshama. And that's the foundation for being with rectifying anger, doing tikkun. We do it in this world, mitzvot, we do it in this world with our bodies. So the container, the boundary is kind of number one. And I'm gonna pull up the my go-to slideshow. So we're going to start from the beginning with the creation of the world. Here it is. Okay. Okay. So God's purpose in creating the world. And there's lots of different opinions. This one I'm bringing. There's actually two I want to bring. Vehine, this is from the Ramchal, Mesilat Yesharim. V'hine ma shehorunu chachamenu zal hu, shadam lo nivra ela lit'aneg al Hashem v'lahanot miziv shchinato. Our sages of blessed memory have taught us that man was created for the sole purpose of rejoicing in God and deriving pleasure from the splendor of his presence. So take that in. There's so much in this world, in this being human, that isn't about feeling pleasure. There's a lot of kind of hard, it can feel hard and dark and not, anything but scary. And and yet the purpose of creation is to give us pleasure. And I want to as I'm always kind of waving the flag of Shov, which in the Purim High Council language of integrating soul lights in the body. So the oneg, this word of oneg, litaneg, which is in the Sfirot, it's the highest. It's up there with Keter. It's this very high experience, above Chesed and Gevura and all of these other pieces. And it's, when do we hear oneg? Oneg Shabbat. Oneg Shabbat is about eating. We have oneg Shabbat through eating. Oneg Shabbat is marital intimacy, marital relations. It's this very physical, it's a spiritual delight that we feel in our bodies. So I'm going to kind of the two cases that I'm making today that I'm kind of really want to bring today is honoring the place of our body and our feelings, that our body is this holy vessel and it's our go-to. It's our place where we can receive pleasure. It's also where our trauma, where our pain, whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, it gets stored in our viscera and our organs. And so I'm not going to say it's easy. And I want to help us to kind of navigate and get to know how it might not be so scary, how this kind of getting to know and befriending our body and our emotions kind of leads us to this place to be a vessel that we can receive. And so the Balasulam, Rav Yehuda Lev Ashlag, he says the measure of any joy or of any pleasure that we can receive is commensurate with the measure of our will to receive it. To the extent that as the will to receive grows larger, in like measure, the pleasure received is the greater. So again, and he goes on to say that we receive in order to give. That's the highest. That's where we're going to. And in this place, but here tonight, I want to start with this. What holds us back from wanting to receive, from being open? There is Shefa, there's an abundance of blessing and light. We're surrounded by it. And what holds us back from receiving that? So emotions, unfortunately, we don't get to pick out. I'm going to receive all the pleasure. And the other stuff, the stuff that's not so comfortable, I'm not, that stuff I'm gonna kind of put the stopgap on and only let in the good. And our kind of nature, our nefesh chiyuni, our survival nature is to move away from discomfort, to move away from pain. It's actually a healthy way of survival, only that as children, where we might not have had the been able to wait, give me a moment. Okay, I'm not going to go there. So emotions, also to let them flow through us, to be able to receive them, we need to be open and to all of them. And the truth is, they're here to serve us. They're here to teach us about ourselves, about others. We're gonna get there. And so, like the neck of a river, if there's trash in there, if there's litter and stuff gets in there at the bottleneck, it's gonna clog up all the flow, all of the life, the vitality, and the flow of energy is going to get blocked up because of the junk. So if we try to stop the kind of the junk, the uncomfortable feelings, we're also going to be holding out against the joy and our vitality and our pleasure. So in here we can, especially with anger, to the extent that I did not have support for my emotions, or they were acted out by a caregiver in a destructive, a parent or caregiver, in a destructive or manipulative way, I will move away from feeling my own emotions, and I will be susceptible to others' emotions. So, or their others' energy. If when I recently, and I asked my parents' permission to share this, there was a lot of fighting, and my parents fought a lot as a kid. And my mom, as I asked her, would it be okay to share? They're open about it. And my mom said, it's just so important to remember there was also a lot of love. And so I wanna add that here and bring that here. And there was a lot of anger. And recently I was feeling such deep kind of sadness, and I wasn't sure what it was connected to. And I had a sense it was partly connected to the hostages coming out, and kind of the process that they're going to have to go through, and the hostages that are still in captivity, that they should come home soon, which should be bring light and be in their zchut, that they should feel Hashem's light there with them. And so I'm feeling the sadness, and without going through the whole session, I realized that as a kid, it was very sad to see my parents fighting. And nobody was there. I couldn't cry and say, it hurts me when I see you fighting. The lack of shalom bayit, it's painful to witness this. I didn't have the words or the consciousness of that. And even if I did, my parents weren't present or there to kind of hold that for me. And so to the extent that I didn't have a container, someone to hold and honor and see and be with, make space for my emotions, I just got wrapped up into their kind of their chaos. I got wrapped up in, I didn't have a container, and this is the piece, and maybe I'll bring this other purpose of creation here. So again, this is the way that we, in making space for our emotions, we start to create a container that has a boundary, that we're not as susceptible to other people's. For those of you who were here, I think it was the Kislev class, we spoke about the 3 cries, and the way that when a cry of suffering, of loss, or of assault, or of the baby's cry, kind of the tzimtzum of the neshama, of the spiritual getting kind of brought into the physical, that it reverberates. As somebody else's pain, crying, we can be very susceptible to that. And so again, we want to have these healthy boundaries. And I'm not going to bring up the slide, but Saryudit, another purpose of creation that Saryudit Schneider speaks about, she says that Hashem was lacking nothing except for some, and I'm not quoting word by word, something like this, except for some mysterious reason, an other to relate to. And so the purpose she's bringing in this sense, the purpose of creation, being about being in relationship. And so Hashem withdrew himself. It was Ein Sof. There was too much light. In order for another to be there, Hashem had to withdraw his presence. There was the Chalal Panui, and creation was made within that. So again, here's another example of, or maybe not another, we'll get there. This isn't it where the separation, in order to be in relationship, we need to have an other to relate to. There needs to be an ani here. And this goes into the whole paradox of between ein va'ani, kind of the nothingness, where we go for bitul, for being one with Hashem, and then merging and differentiation. And now there is, I assert my will. There's an ani here. There's a me here. This is what I like, and this is what I feel like my tikkun is, and what I want to bring to the world. And so we're not going to, in the end of days, we're not going to merge. We're not going to come back into nothingness, into the Ein Sof, into one. We're going to, Saryudit explains it like the isotrope. Oh, it has a mathematical term. My calculus teacher would not be impressed. It goes closer and closer and closer, but never merges. We're coming into eternal closeness without ever merging. And I think that there's a feminine and a masculine piece here, where the feminine, you know what, I'm going to turn this stop share for a moment. Did I do that? Okay. Where the feminine, I feel like our role is more into, for those of you that read the Zot Chanukah piece, we're Keter Malchut. The higher Shechina is Keter, the lower Shechina is Malchut. And we're coming into our Keter. We want to embody Keter Malchut. The feminine is coming into her Ani. She's coming into herself, the rising of the feminine, the fullness of the feminine. Now the masculine, and it's interesting, there's science and research that shows little girls, the part of the brain that has empathy, that's able to see how what another is feeling, tune into another, is bigger. That part of the brain is more active and bigger in girls as they're developing, and so for good and bad, that means as women, we have, and we may experience this in our relationships between men and women, have this kind of sense of what's going on for someone else, what they might need, what their emotions were. They might say, oh, I'm fine, everything's fine. And I sense, there's some sadness here, or, and so it's for better or for worse, because as young girls, we can, in tuning into our parents, to their emotions. So if I sense that they're angry about something I'm doing, I'm like having my vitality, my passion, and I sense, because I have more of this sense of their getting frazzled about it, or upset, or whatever it is, I'm more likely to make myself small to please the other, because I'm more in tune to what the effect that my actions are having. And the most important, even more, there's also studies in this, than physical survival, is our emotional needs for love, for belonging, for having, being able to being a part of, being able to actualize what it is, being giving. So I'm going to do anything I can to make sure that my parents are happy with me. And so as feminines, we know how to be bitul, to kind of be small, and so coming into this place of ani. And it's interesting because the feminine is also gevura, which is this containing boundary place. It's also associated with anger. And I should mention, I brought anger this month because the tikkun of Tevet, if you were in Chana Veret's class, is rogez. It's a kind of anger. And so Gevura is the left pillar of the Sfirot, which is the feminine pillar. It's a feminine, and it's about making boundaries. And so, Gevura is this containing. Chesed is the masculine side of giving, of giving, and Gevura creates the container. Water. Chesed is watery. It doesn't, it would just go it couldn't contain, it couldn't have itself without the Gevura, without this container. And so I want to do just a small exercise that has to do with having a no. And just getting to know, that's a very, anyone who's been with the 2-year-old or whatever it is, they're very good at expressing their no. And we can kind of lose that. There's a way that we learned, maybe, that I didn't get to have a no, that I have to do what I'm told in whatever way. So I want to just invite you to feel just kind of how that kind of a basic boundary setting, a basic lives in each one of us. And you can have a no to doing this exercise. I totally honor that. So if this doesn't feel right to you, I don't know, space out or whatever it is you need to do. Take care of yourself. And so what I want to invite, if it's comfortable, you could close your eyes, or just kind of have a soft gaze, maybe look down, having a soft gaze if closing your eyes doesn't feel right. Especially if you're driving, of course, not to do that. And taking a few breaths here. And you can feel the back of your legs as they touch whatever you're sitting on. Maybe if your back has support. And I'm noticing any place of contact with your body. Noticing your breath. Maybe bringing awareness to the way your belly, maybe your chest expands with the inhale. Any slight movements that happen, and with the exhale, the belly comes in, maybe the shoulders drop a little. I want to invite you to just a simple movement, and you can start kind of slow, of a no with your head, kind of that nodding no. And you might even think of something. I wouldn't take anything too big, but anything that you kind of have a no to in your life right now. And let yourself just feel. If you want to turn off your camera, you can. Everybody should know the recording only shows the speaker view, so you're not being recorded. And you might want to do a kind of a more faster no. And just as you have your no, kind of notice what happens in your body. I notice my stomach clenches a little bit. Maybe there's a little girl in there who wants to kick in and have a bit of a temper tantrum. And notice if there's a voice or a sound that might want to come out with that. Or that might get stuck, that might want to come out, but it doesn't. You can kind of sense how it gets stuck in the throat. Remembering to breathe. Noticing any other sensations in your body. And when you're ready, you can come back and opening your eyes, maybe with a gentle gaze at first, looking down. And kind of, if anybody would like to share in the chat, and just kind of notice, was that comfortable to do? Was that uncomfortable? How was that for you? And there's no right or wrong way to do this, or right or wrong response. Just kind of notice, did I have resistance? Was there a no to the exercise? Maybe I didn't feel anything, like, oh, what's she talking about? Like, here, what's the big deal? Just nod your head. That's also telling. You can also be, and I'm going to open the chat so I can. I felt I couldn't be happy while saying no. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I've been aware when my children were younger and I started making boundaries and having no's, how somehow I had to do it with anger, or somehow it was bad what was happening, or that often we can associate what's really, again, a holding, a making space for growth, for my existence. And it can be associated, if we didn't have a role model, how it can be associated with something bad or wrong. Anger's with that. I've had neck pain Realize that my no means I can't. Hmm. Chest tightened with no, head started nodding no faster, and towards the end, the no shake turned into a yes nod. Yopi. So there was some welcoming of this no. I felt the no growing and becoming more dramatic until I reached the conclusion of what the no was about. So making space for a no that we have, and we're going to get into the, where anger plays into all of this, can also, this is this place of honoring our emotions and making space for, it opens up for us to hear our body's wisdom through movement, through listening in to our body/soul's wisdom. It's the meeting between the body and soul. When we bring consciousness, we bring light. We get into this. We spoke about the merchav neshama that happens between us, and there's this merchav neshama within us that we, as we listen in and make space for and bring awareness to, we get access to. So I'm gonna come back just a moment to our, see where we're at. Okay. 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 So a small piece about anger. Mentioned before, there's these core needs, and they're as important as our physical needs of food and drink and shelter, as survival. That there's the physical. Integrity, I matter, I'm worthy. Love, and I get, even just as I say that, I feel touched. And actualization, that if there, when I have a impulse to, or a a way that I want to create in the world, that I want to bring what I have to give in the world, when it gets stopped, when my needs aren't met, when I'm not able to do that, there's anger. Anger is a very healthy response, and each one of those, anger can point someone toward their unmet needs. So if if I notice, all of our emotions, they're here to guide us what's the most spiritually productive choice in this moment. If there is fear, that's going to guide me. Do I need some protection here? Is there something I need to be aware of? Maybe this going into this situation isn't a good idea. When we have a healthy relationship with our emotions, they guide us. So if I start getting anger, I can notice if I'm getting resentful about, maybe, I don't know, I'm in the kitchen and I'm cooking and I'm doing the dishes again and I'm starting to get angry and resentful. Maybe I need to stop and go for a walk, or be in nature, or maybe there's something that I'm not caring for, and I can get angry at my spouse because he's doing that, but I can also get to know he's taking care of his needs and I take on the burden, but I can also get to know what is my need here, and maybe it is for his support. And but if I just try to squash the anger down and say anger is not good, or there's that feeling again, just push through it, I'm not going to get this information. I'm not going to be able to ask for what I want. I'm not going to be able to take steps to get it. Fear frequently lurks underneath the anger. I'm angry because I'm afraid that I'll be rejected. I'm afraid that they won't see me, that I'm going to be judged. Anger often arises when people feel like their boundaries have been violated. Anger may also indicate an obstacle that is blocking someone from reaching their goals. So again, all of these, what wonderful information. I need to know if I have a boundary that's being violated, it's important. Someone's in my space and that's not comfortable for me. Some people are really sensitive. There's a lot of sensitive neshamas out there. And if you're that, like myself, that kind of person that can't just have people coming all the time and any time, whatever they want to say or do or coming, sometimes I need kind of to come back into my cocoon, into my space. And I can get angry when they keep coming in. And the more that I know that and I can own that, I can feel, oh, right, I need a break. I need to go have some alone time. My anger is here to let me know that. Okay, so this is more they, making space for our emotions. They help us to take action, to survive. Again, that fear, protection, to understand others. Oh, what I did just made that person angry or feel sad. Oh, or this person doesn't like it when, or this person doesn't like, we can get to know the other person, to strike and avoid danger, to cleanse. I say that because I recently learned that our tears are actually toxic, that it's an emotional cleanse. We're cleansing out toxins. I heard it's like perspiration, emotional, that it actually has toxins. And so it's a cleansing in allowing for our tears to be here, for allowing grief to be here, and with support. I want to, there's some grief that it's too much and we need to be held. We need support. Most grief, I would say, needs support. And a good cry, how after a good cry, you kind of feel better. So crying also releases oxytocin and serotonin, like these feel good hormones. So I'm cheering for the feeling to release, to make decisions by pointing to what's important to us. Again, anger can show me I have a value here that's getting stepped on. This is not okay for me. I have a no to this. That anger is a reflection to how important, or in my grief, my sadness is also a reflection to how much I care about if there's a loss, and to help other people understand us. So the part of our neshama that has to do with emotions is ruach, as our ruach, and reading, it's an essential part of our vitality, of knowing myself, creating a vessel for my neshama. So again, we spoke about early this idea of the container, and the Baal Shem Tov says, you may have heard me say before, the guf is a kisei for the nefesh, is the throne for the nefesh. The body is the throne for the nefesh, for these unconscious kind of our blood pumping, these kind of primal ways our body, our vitality, is a throne for the ruach, our emotions, is the throne for the neshama, is the throne, and is how we receive the ziv hashchina, the radiance of the Shechina, which is what the tzaddikim are doing in Olam Haba. And so again, to get this kind of dveikut, connection, clinging to Hashem, experiencing the radiance of Hashem's glory, of Hashem's light in this world, we want to bring that light into so bringing awareness into our breath, these mindfulness practice, meditation. We're bringing the light of awareness, which is soul, which is consciousness, neshama light, into the place of nefesh. And when my ruach, when I make space for my feelings to feel, and we're going to do this shortly, we're going to do another exercise of making some space for anger. As I make space for it, and I allow it to be seen and held, someone that I trust and who can really see me and be there for me. And I say, you know, I'm really angry about this. This is what's going on, or I feel so sad. It's a part of knowing who I am, what I value, what's important to me, how I do relationship. And it builds the, again, what I spoke about earlier, the more support I have for my emotions, the more I'm not going to be kind of in the storm of somebody else's, because their anger isn't gonna, the more I have an experience of anger being something that I have a relationship with, that I know how it feels in me, it's not so scary. And most of us, anger, I think, I know for myself, is the way that we see it acted out in the world is destructive. You know, fire that can be destructive or that can be creative, that can be warmth. It's a very powerful emotion. And we're going to do a small exercise with it today. But my mentor, my therapist, Dan Levin, he of SomaSoul, of the Life Institute for Creative Movement, I'm not even remembering the full title. He speaks about this piece of really grounding, which we're going to get to in a moment, like rectifying anger. It's not something you do alone. It's something that you really need support for making that transformation of this power. If you think of emotions as energy in motion, so of really holding and transforming it in a rectified way. And Rav Tzadok, which we're going to get to, also he speaks about that. It's not even, we can't fully do it at this time. Let's get there. Let me just see what else is here. So again, there's nothing wrong with the anger itself, or even the desire to lash out, to an impulse, the impulse. You know, kids, they make a sandcastle and they stomp it down. It's a healthy, it's a healthy impulse. The problem is the feelings are okay, but not the destructive behavior. Now that we're older, and we still might want to go to the beach and do that. We might have a need to like feel that. But as we get older, we want to have choice around. We want to be able to pause. The emotional regulation, a pause that allows me to consider how my response to a situation will affect others and or myself, and whether this response is within my integrity. So all of these tools in making space for emotion helps us to live within our own integrity, where my actions reflect my values, where I don't want to yell at someone, I don't want to lash out. And as long as we keep just kind of stuffing it in and don't give it space, the pressure cooker is gonna flip. So we want to come to this place where we get to know we're in relationship with this energy, that we can have more choice around how it's acted out. And I'm just looking at the time. I'm going to skip the Gestalt piece for now. Excuse me. Though, please God, we'll do more with this. So give me a moment. Yeah, you know what? Let's do the journaling piece. It's a lot of talking. And we'll come back to this after. So if you don't have pen and paper, you can grab some, or if you have a journal or whatever it is. We'll get it now. And we're going to take about 5 minutes and just kind of thinking of some situation that you felt angry sometime recently or whenever it was, that you felt angry about something, and not if it's on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe a 3 or 4, not something that you were like, you were gonna explode, like you can't hold. But something you kind of, it was irritating, it was frustrating, it was, and just kind of write it out. What was the situation? Who was there, or what triggered the anger? Um, if you're aware already, I didn't sleep well the night before, and so I was already a bit irritated. And I'll invite you to bring in words, feeling words. So I felt frustrated when this happened, or it was so irritated. I was so irritated. Um, I also physical sensation, or I felt like I could have exploded. Any physical sensations? Even as I'm writing this, I feel my hands, my fists kind of include, make the story colorful. Include some emotions, feelings, emotion as part of the narrative here. I'm gonna see if I can share some music while you're journaling. We have about, we'll take another 4 minutes. And just kind of recognizing how the music doesn't, may not match the emotion. So let the, of anger. So let yourself also feel kind of permission to be angry. Feel a loving presence that could be, as your anger, we make space for your anger to be here. That it could be with softness. You could have support for your anger. And taking another minute to wrap it up. And you might, if it feels right, you could explore, I'm afraid that. I'm angry because I'm afraid that, if that feels relevant. Sometimes anger is known as a secondary emotion, that there might be fear underneath. Okay, just take another minute or another few moments to wrap up this piece. And we're going to move right into what kind of mindfulness practice. Well, I'll invite you again to close your eyes if that's comfortable. And again, feeling your body, the back of your legs, in contact with whatever you're sitting on. Your breath. Now I'm going to invite you to notice how this experience, this situation that you journaled about, how it lives in your body. So start to notice as you kind of think about that, whatever it was, this anger that's here. Where do you notice it in your body? And kind of what's it experience? What's its experience there? How does it live? With tightness, shaking. I know that my jaw often is where it shows up in me. There's like a clenching in my jaw that happens. And if at any time it feels too much or feels overwhelming, you can open your eyes or maybe put a hand on your heart and rub your heart. And take care of yourself here if it feels too much. And so when you found a place where the anger, I know where you're experiencing anger in your body. So for me, it's my jaw. So just let your awareness camp out there. Kind of bringing your awareness to that part of your body. And getting curious about this way, how anger lives here. Does it have movement? Does it pound? Is there maybe there's pain, actual physical pain? Or maybe it feels heavy or not, kind of dull. And really, again, if it feels too much, so tone it down, but it's the extent that you can be with it. Kind of see if you can make more space for it. So notice if it doesn't have a shape, or does it have an image, or if it's in my chest, is it a ball the size of my fist, or does it radiate out? And see if you can let the space around it kind of get a little bigger. So maybe even your body, kind of the container of your body could have a little more expansiveness. So that you didn't, this anger, this energy, or this kind of feeling that's here, you didn't have to hold on to it just in your body. It could kind of take up a little more space, and you could expand with it. You could have more space if it feels too much. And kind of know that that's the Shekhinah's in that space. So you can feel held here as you let this anger, it can grow if that feels right, to let it kind of have a little more expansive. It doesn't have to be so tight. You don't have to hold on to it so tight. Or hold on to it alone. So just kind of allowing this anger to take up as much space as it needs. If that could be okay. And just being aware as you do that, maybe how your system responds. You get maybe a little spacey, or maybe your heartbeat goes faster. Just kind of noticing how this experience of making space for your anger, if it feels safe, feels okay to do that. It could be okay, or not so sure, it's too much. And I'm gonna just kind of invite the Shekhinah's presence. That sometimes the tzaddikim speak about a dark blue light that surrounds above the head. So if dark blue feels right, or maybe sky blue, kind of sense that holding you as you have this very human experience of anger. The Shekhinah can hold you there. And kind of bringing your energy back in. So if you let your container kind of get bigger to hold it, kind of coming back in, maybe you can squeeze your arms, give yourself kind of a hug. Maybe noticing if the original place where the anger was felt, if that shifted in any way. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes, coming back into the space together. And I just want to invite again a space if anyone wants to put in the chat any reflection, any of the kind of expressions of anger that came, whether it was the words as you were journaling, frustrated, irritated, rage, or body sensations. If you want to share where in your body. Tightness in the jaw, that's where mine shows up. Kind of a way that you can, teeth clenching. And kind of take in that we're not alone, that there's often, that we all have anger. It's part of being human. And it shows up in whatever way. Let's see if anybody else wants to share. Behind my eyes, like a headache, stomach, lack of breath. Yeah. And how was it to have more space? Did you feel met in that? And maybe, you know what, I'll pause the recording if anybody wants to share with your voice. So I want to bring here this, that there's a way that when we because we often don't have access to the frontal cortex, when we're in the anger, when we're in a heavy emotion, we kind of lose. That's why they say don't try to reason with a child when they're angry, because there's no one to reason with. There's nobody there. So the body, there's a way that by being with the body sensations, we don't have to know. There's the place of dot is, that connects the mind and the heart. It's the place, it's a knowing. That's this place of knowing. It's kind of beyond knowing. It's not an intellectual figuring it out knowing. When we open up to listen in, there's a way that we learn. The body's wisdom will tell us. The body can tell us what it is about. And the body, it might be about from my childhood. It might be from a past reincarnation. It might be, it's part of my soul's. There's a way that we can't always figure it out. We can make the connection then. We can listen to our body and then like, oh, right. That makes total sense now why that pushes my buttons. It can, but it's something like 80% of our actions come first from our gut, this gut brain. The messages, the neural messages come from the body as this impulse, as this response. So we want to listen in and get to know, we can listen into our intuition, to our guts. And so I want to bring this other piece, because I also want to, there's a power in anger. So let's bring this Torah piece. Okay. So Sari Menu, I was very surprised. This is the first time I had noticed that this year in Bereshit. What is it, Lech Lecha? I don't remember which parsha, what it would be, where Sari Menu gives Hagar to Abraham. She's not having children, and she gives her Shifcha, and Hagar gives birth to Ishmael. Maybe not hasn't given birth yet, but is going to. And it says that Sarai at that time became lowly in her eyes. She said, "Look, you think you're so great, and you couldn't give birth. You didn't get pregnant, and here I came in, and right away I'm already pregnant." V'tomer Sarai el Avram, Chamasi alecha, anochi natati shifchati, and it goes on. So Sarai says, Chamasi alecha, my injustice is on you, my anger, my wrath. There's the injustice that here my shifcha is putting me down and you're not standing up for me. She's and Hashem says, listen to Sarai. Here's another, like the women were the ones that had to make the boundary, that had to say, it's not okay what's I have a value and I'm going to have a no here. I'm going to have a boundary needs to be made. And so I just think it's quite fascinating that, and in light that there is this way where Hamas, which of course is so telling of who Hamas, it's this language of wrath and yet it wasn't, you don't get the sense of lashing out. It was just like, I am worthy, I am a bat melech, and it's not okay to be, what I did was right to give my shifcha, and she can't put me down. So, and another place, Moshe Rabbeinu gets angry. Choni Magal, there's all these places where they're like, Hashem, ma pitom, where they, Hana. We see all these places in Torah where anger kind of comes up. So Eliyahu Hanavi, Sarah Yudit Schneider, in her teaching, the still small voice, teaching Haggadah, she has a Torah about why is it that Eliyahu Hanavi, when we do Kos Eliyahu, one of the, what Eliyahu's role is going to be is he's going to reinstate the Sanhedrin, and he's going to, not dissolve, he's going to let us know, machloket, was it Hillel or Shammai, what it's supposed to be. And he's also going to be the harbinger of Mashiach. He's going to announce a Mashiach and bring peace. Like it's gonna, and whether the peace, there'll be peace, and so Mashiach will come, or Mashiach will come, and so then peace will come. But there's something Eliyahu Hanavi is about world peace, and yet at the Seder, when we bring Kos Eliyahu and invite Eliyahu in, we say all these pasukim that are about destroying our enemies, and these kind of wrathful, anything but peaceful pasukim. So this is from the Saridit's Haggadah. According to Kabbalah, the Yetzer for pleasure associates with the right and watery pillar of Chesed, which when lacking moral fiber veers towards self-indulgence. The Yetzer of anger, power, control, and domination associates with the fiery left pillar of Gevurah, translated variously as might, justice, or discipline. Its function, anger's function, is to negate that which negates God. That's the rectified. That's why we need it. We need it to stand up to evil, to stand up to something that's negating God's goodness, and for life and choosing life. And so the trick is that we need to become transparent channels of Hashem's wrath without taking personal gratification from that privilege. And so we're gonna, in Shvat, with the Tikkun of eating, we're gonna speak more about the Yetzer for pleasure, and in this Torah, she speaks about how, from Rav Tzadok, that first you have to mitzaken, that tikkun, this way of taking from the world without God consciousness. And please God, next month already, we'll go into that. And so that's the first step. And it's about, because there's a way, and if you think about anger, when really there's anger, we get big, you kind of get filled up. If we really let ourselves feel the power of anger, it's very hard to contain it. It's very hard not to get like our ego puffed up in it, to get for it to be about me. And here, how do we, that kind of destructive power, how do we ground it? And this is the same with joy. Have you ever been in a situation where you've been like so joyful that you're like hyper and speaking a mile a minute, and it can be very, when there's great emotion, when there's an intensity of whatever it is, it can be very hard to stay present. And to the extent, and what takes us away from presence, and my presence is Hashem's presence, what takes me away from presence is that piece of ego that gets wrapped up in there. And so in the Cheshvan class, we spoke about how the Beit HaMikdash, that in Parashat Noach, the flood waters, that Hashem built the Beit HaMikdash, so that the intensity of light, whoever was in that class, we spoke about that Hashem wanted to give the Torah to the generation of Noach, and tried all kinds of ways to offer it and get them to take the bite and to open to receive it. And because they didn't do tshuva and they didn't open to receive it, so the light, the intensity of the light of the Torah came down, Mayim Chaim, Torah as Mayim Chaim, it came down as floodwaters, as destruction. And so with the Beit HaMikdash, Hashem said it won't happen again. Now the Beit HaMikdash is this channel, the light comes through and gets directed to the right places. And so there's a practice that I do in my therapy practice with my clients, and in my own process, where it's the similar idea that if the anger, if we're able to embody, really feel it, really feel the intensity of it, but with ground. So my mentor spoke about it like a lightning rod. So as that anger, as the power that usually we shut down around, we don't allow ourselves to feel, because it feels so scary and out of control. There's a way that if we do it with ground in my like the pelvis and the legs, maybe squatting or just having awareness of my body, my connection to ground, that like a lightning rod, that intensity of energy can come in and not destroy, not me, not take me over, and not the other person. It can give, but it can give, I can stand in my power. I can own, I can, like Eliyahu HaNavi, Kiviyachol, I can stand up for what I believe in. I can have a no. I can have a no to what's happening here, and I can feel empowered by it. I don't have to squish it down. I can live and breathe it, and I can make a boundary that needs to be made. Just stop the share. And this is where I'll bring this in Gestalt therapy. There's different layers of life experience. And in the most close to core, my mentor adds spirit layer. And then if you imagine a circle, I'm sorry, I don't have the image of life layer that's around that. And which is joy and curiosity and connection and relationships and all the things that make us, all our vitality. And then around that is death layer. And death layer is these energies of rejection, abandonment, assault, judging, criticizing. And anger could be in death layer when anger is acted out destructively. So it has this energy of death layer. It's about, it doesn't connect me to my core. It takes me away from my life, my spirit, away, like Yehuda said earlier, kind of not knowing my truth, it takes me away from. Now, when anger has support, when it has ground, and I mentioned before, a way that kind of needing an other to hold this, because it's such a powerful energy to kind of hold this with us, make space and hold this with us. It's life layer. Anger becomes life layer. It connects us to our values, to what's important to me, to stand up that I exist and I'm worthy, and nobody, whether it's me or Am Yisrael or my child, my neighbor, whoever it is, where I can stand it rather instead of an energy of defeat or having just the world's a terrible place and there's nothing I can do. There's a way that I can stand in my power. And that's and again, starting to make space for and feel into the emotions as an energy. So with movement, and that's what I want to end today. And I was undecided about bringing, I'm not going to do it, but there's this wonderful Maori, this wonderful interview that came out. The Maori people indigenous people of New Zealand and Australia, they heard that there was, both in New Zealand and in Australia, 2 different occasions, that there was a pro-Palestinian protest planned. And they showed up about an hour before, and they did a haka. And so if you've ever seen, it's this dance, and their eyes get really big, and they have these the stances, and I want to invite us all to do it. They have this and I really it's Avi Yamini is the name of the man who's whatever his show that did the interview. But you see them, and they're doing these like with they're so powerful. And what I loved about this interview is this meeting, they said, he asks them, why did you come out today? Like, what are you here for? And they just said, the Israel people are the indigenous people of Israel. They deserve to be there. And we're not going to, when we believe in something, we're going to stand up. And their speaking was so kind of humble and in truth and connected to their truth. And they said, we're not angry. We just stand up. If we believe in something, we stand up for it. And then you see them the next minute, you see them, and they're like, my mother-in-law, who lived in Australia many years, she said she enjoyed seeing it, but it would be scary. She would feel, it could feel scary. And I felt like that convergence of kind of just the humbleness, and there was like a sweetness to their and what I actually read about them, this group, it's a church, and I read about them, and they just really support each other. You just see they're kind people. And so that kind of embodying the anger, so I want to invite us just to, another time we'll do it as a dance. There's kind of some dance that we can, but just if you want to, don't let me have all the fun. That's what, as Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen says. So feel kind of your connection, whether it's a squat, let yourself, maybe with the exhale, feel your more weight in your bottom half of your body. Make sure, keep your back, kind of notice where your pelvis, that you feel supported, that you're not stressing your back. So maybe your feet are closer together. You have and kind of let yourself, maybe your hands can kind of push out, like they're pushing against a wall. And maybe as you have your no, this could be a way of having nobody can come into my space without my permission. You can do that in the haka. They do this kind of, maybe let your feet stomp, feel. And just, and maybe pause. And feel the energy that moves through. I even feel a little bit of sadness that opens up. As the energy flows, for whatever reason, some sadness comes. I feel invigorated. I feel alive in my body. And so just take a few more minutes, kind of notice how, how you want. There's this whole thing of kickboxing. You can, what you might have needed to do to someone when you weren't able to defend yourself now, you might have needed to do, and you want to let your body do that. And every once in a while coming back to feeling your feet on the ground. Feeling the strength, the support of your legs. Maybe breathing all the way down, kind of guiding the breath all the way down to your feet. Maybe shake it off, whatever. Kind of bounce it off. This is another great one for fear or anger or whatever, if you want to help it move through. And coming to stillness. I'll come back to sitting. I can remember I'm also a Shake Your Soul dance facilitator. And at the beginning of my process of really does a lot of release through different kinds of movements, and emotions open up, and it's a very soulful practice. And I remember at one point, oh, that's anger. It was an energy that was moving through me, and I could recognize it wasn't something that I had to make sense of or hold on to or hold back. With the music, with the movement, I just recognized. I don't remember how I knew it was anger, because it wasn't like so angry, but there's a way that with movement we can allow what would feel too much to kind of hold. There's a more space for it to move through us. So I think I had one just kind of summary takeaways. So one, speak about the tzaddikim. I think even the Baal Shem Tov said, wait 61 minutes if you're angry. So there's this idea of pausing, taking breaths, coming back into the body, connecting again to this container. Our body is our best resource. As we make space for it, loving, compassionate space for its feelings, it's our best resource. So pausing, bringing awareness to the feeling. So again, just that up clenching of my jaw, my teeth, or that tightness in my belly. That's a wonderful practice at any time. Doing that on a regular basis, just checking in, is such a wonderful practice. And helps to bring towards calm, helps to kind of to reset, bringing consciousness to the place of constriction. You can ask what it's here for, kind of listening in. Why is it here? What does it need? What might it need as anger shows up, as sadness shows up? How do I want to respond? So that's that taking enough pause. To get and with the breath, to get the frontal cortex back on board. How do I want to respond and movement. Maybe I need to, I remember at one point, one of my children had a lot of anger, and I, at one point I just went, no, and I just did this as I was feeling kind of blown away by his anger. I was able to just, with my body, come back to my sense of presence. So you kind of just looked at me. What's going on here? But it allowed me to come to my presence, to my power, into my, as my child got touched when anger came in, I was able to come into a place of presence with the movement. Okay, so that's the end of the class. I'll open it up. I'm going to pause the recording to open up. I just want to hear, it's for any newcomers, this is our email, the website. You can sign up for the email list through our website. We have a WhatsApp group. If you email me, I can send you the link for that, where we share classes, recordings, teachings, so far we've been sharing our classes. We have a Moonlit Circle YouTube channel where the recordings come up within a few days. And Saridit Schneider, who a lot of my Torah is based on, her website is astillsmallvoice.org. And so we offer free classes. We have a workshop happening in the Golan. They're online courses. Please God, I'm going to start a course, kind of a more intimate, a weekly course of doing this work together, this kind of bridging of Kabbalah and neuroscience and healing somatic body-centered psychotherapy practices. And really for this place of coming from kind of these places of confusion or of not, or of really coming into free choice of how I respond, coming into relationship and awareness, self-knowledge, relationship with self, with others, and with Hashem. And I'm a somatic therapist. I do one-on-one SomaSoul therapy. You're welcome. On the website, you can sign up for an introductory session to kind of get to know how I work. And if you're looking for some support in coming into your own vitality, in kind of working through kind of struggles or challenges, I'm here to support you with that as well. So I'm going to pause the recording and